What's up, one and all? Welcome to a brand new video. The first thoughts on video I've done in months. I have indeed said that I love making these videos, yet I don't seem to put them out that much. Well, that's something I'm trying to change with SaiTorr 4.0, a giant overhaul I recently did with my channel, and part of that, of course, is still doing thoughts on. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I really want to comment on that and saying that something I said in my SaiTorr 4.0 video was that all of my new content for the channel, in terms of discussions and analysis and reviews, would be scripted. That accepts Thoughts On. I am not doing that for Thoughts On. Thoughts On will continue to be a flow of consciousness about a game because I feel that, for me at least, is the best way to talk and give my honest thoughts on a game. That really is the emphasis of what this is, right? It's the thoughts on a game, not so much the scripted, organized, constructive criticism of a game, even though that's kind of what I try to aim for. But I find that when I talk off the cuff with these videos, it usually goes a little bit better than if I wrote it down beforehand. With that being said, now we're going to jump into the game we're talking about today, and that, of course, is Sonic Mania. Now, when I say Sonic out loud, you're one of two people. Either you're the person who falls into the category of, oh my god, I love Sonic. Even though all the games aren't great, I still love Sonic. I will play every Sonic game. And on the other side of that are the people who go, Sonic. And it's kind of hard to get anyone in between that who has an unbridled love for Sonic, yet won't admit that some of the games are flawed, and people who notice that the games are flawed, and that obviously affects their interest in the games in general. And I think for many years now, in fact probably the last 2 decades, that's kind of the reputation that's followed Sonic around, especially after a few of his original 2D platformers weren't as strong as what the series started out with, what the franchise started out with, and that problem only continued to worsen into the age of 3D platformers, especially when Sonic went 3D. For some reason, a lot of the magic and fun that existed in those original 2D platforming Sonic games started to fade, to the point where it started to seem like Sega had no idea what they were doing with the character and started doing things that were very questionable, not only from a game design standpoint, but from the standpoint of knowing what Sonic is about. A fast-moving hedgehog who fights Dr. Robotnik or Egghead or whatever you want to call him, saves the animals and goes on these wild 2D platforming adventures. I mean, that could have totally worked in a 3D platforming era, but it's just difficult. Enter Sonic Mania, the Sonic game that the world never knew that it really needed, because this game does something that's great for 2 reasons. For one, I think it obviously recaptures the 8-bit 2D platforming aesthetic and gameplay of the very original Sonic games, and I think it reminds fans and casuals what made Sonic so great in the first place. Obviously, like I said, the 8-bit wow, can't talk to save my life today. The 8-bit 2D platforming gameplay mixed with the whole kind of like, future retro aesthetic at the same time. You have these eye-popping visuals in every single map. You have this great, very funky music, which was a trend that I think went through a lot of video games at the time, but Sonic really kind of owned that. And obviously the fast-moving gameplay with Sonic being able to build up speed and momentum and basically barrel through all these amazing maps. And those were things that really made those original Sonic games stand out. And those are the very same factors that make Sonic Mania stand out. In fact, the best way to really look at it is that Sonic Mania is almost like a continuation of those original Sonic games, but better. It takes into account what makes those levels fun, what's challenging for players, what's going to be interesting, what's going to be memorable. And as someone who has never been good at 2D platformers, especially after this game, so many times that I get stuck in Sonic Mania, I realized just how much care, attention, and detail went into the design of this game and all the maps. There's not one map in this game that really doesn't stand out. All of them are excellent. Even the ones that are impossibly difficult, even with the ones that end in these ridiculous boss fights. All of the maps really do a great job of standing out and are iconic for different reasons. Each map has its own flavor and character, and when you see your friend or you see just a screenshot of that map, it'll instantly invoke some sort of, not necessarily nostalgic, but some sort of very iconic memory of what that level was like for you, what that zone was like for you. Maybe you're someone who's like, oh god, I was moving so fast, it was so fun, I was like, holy crap, look at this is wild. All the platforming, you know, like mechanics and gimmicks. Or maybe sometimes you're like, oh god, that level was terrible. But even with the levels that are really hard, it's hard to admit that they don't still have charm. Probably one of my least favorite levels in the entire game is the Oil Ocean zone, I think. For me at least, this was the one where Sonic basically takes, with most of the levels in Sonic Mania, they take two themes, right? They take maybe some environmental theme that you're familiar with and mix it with some sort of cultural theme. And with the Oil Ocean, you kind of got this, like, almost like Egyptian, Arabian aesthetic going on, but the whole place is filled with oil and, like, stuff like that. So they kind of mix that together, and it's just hard. It's a hard map. There's no way around it. There's so many times that if you're not precise, you're gonna die and lose your rings a lot. But I think the thing for me that kept me engaged and kept me coming back to that was that every time I played it, I still wanted to improve. I still wanted to do better. It's almost like Dark Souls in a way. The same sensation can occur where even if you suck, you keep coming back to the levels in hopes that you'll improve. And eventually, I did that Oil Ocean zone so many times that eventually I got to be better at it than any other level in the game, which was so strange. But that's the kind of thing that happens in Sonic Mania. They put you in these incredibly rigorous levels with completely different assets and objects and platforming interactions and stuff like that compared to every other level, that it's almost like a different challenge each time. It's not really a progression. It's more like throwing Sonic into a different frying pan every time, yet that frying pan has a different sensation to it. This one, it feels different. It might be a little hotter than the last one, I'm not sure, but it feels different. Oh, that frying pan definitely doesn't work for me. But the point of this is that even for the levels that are impossibly hard in this game, the ones that really drag, the levels, no one level in this game is really designed poorly. All of them are designed fantastically. They have a very immaculate attention to detail. It's just the only fair criticism I think that can be leveled against those hard levels is that I think the developers designed them a little too tough for the player, that's all. Outside of that, Sonic feels great to control, of course. What are you expecting? Playing as Tails and Knuckles is also great. Being able to play two-player is awesome, and being able to play split-screen is awesome. I know that these were features that existed in the original Sonic games, but it's so important that we have those features still, because obviously a lot of games lack that, and a platformer that you can play with two people is always really, really fun, especially this game, even though it can probably get really tricky at times. There's also other modes packed into this game. You have a time attack, which is as you'd expect, get the fastest time each time. That's a staple really for platformers, and I really do enjoy stuff like that. And of course, the levels are packed with secrets and bonus levels that the game does pack a lot of replayability. Not only that, you can play the game with Sonic and Tails, just Sonic, just Tails, and just Knuckles through different playthroughs, but of course you can unlock Super Sonic, you can unlock Super Tails, and Super Knuckles, essentially super versions of those characters, collect Chaos Emeralds, complete bonus levels, and sort of become a completionist. And of course, there's achievements for this game that I'm pretty sure every completionist will strive after, in the sense that you can complete this game without ever dying. Wow, I hats off to whoever who can do that, but that's not something I'm really capable of. But at the end of the day, Sonic Mania is a very fun and innocent game that is great for the Sonic franchise. I didn't think I really wanted to talk about a game like this, but part of the reason I actually picked this up, because I'm not usually someone who really plays platformers or is into Sonic, but part of that is really just the game successfully banked on my nostalgia from playing Sega on the Genesis when I was younger. My parents' Genesis, that was, playing Sonic on there, having so much fun with it, wanting something that brought that experience to obviously modern gaming, but did it in a way that was reverent and honorable for the legacy of that, while also adding on to it. And at the end of the day, what you get is a super satisfying blend between old Sonic levels, renditions of classic Sonic levels, you know, they're slightly modified, and new Sonic levels. and the blend feels so natural. It feels like it was all part of one complete game, and that's really awesome. Sonic Mania is a game that I'm going to be picking up and playing over and over for probably a couple of years, just because it's so fun and it really scratches a very unique itch that I think was created when I played Sonic when I was younger. Sonic Mania, not a perfect game for sure, because some of those levels bring it down, and I think at the end of the day, your opinion on Sonic Mania will be based entirely on, you know, your experience with those levels. Some might strike you harder than others. I know some people who've played this who didn't have an issue with any level. They liked all of them. They loved all of them. For me, some certainly bring it down for me, but it's not too many. The majority of the zones in this game are excellent, and I absolutely respect the intelligent design of each and every one, even if some of them are a little hard for me, but that's it. So I realized I don't really have a rating system for these thoughts-ons, and that's not such a big deal because I like to make the discussion the emphasis of these videos, but I wanted to start having something like that just to kind of give this series a bit of a progression, if you will, give it some sort of legitimacy, some credibility, if that makes any sense at all. So my rating system is going to work like this. Basically, I'm going to have a shelf of all the games that I have reviewed on Thoughts On, and every game that I review will fall somewhere on the shelf, from best to worst. So if the best here is The Witcher 3 and the worst that we've reviewed is the Arkham Knight, we don't really review a lot of bad games on Thoughts On, but Sonic Mania falls, for me at least, somewhere right in the middle. In fact, it falls in number 5 between Hitman and between Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Now, that's a very weird placement because obviously Hitman is an action stealth game. Deus Ex Mankind Divided is also an action stealth game, but it's very narrative driven, and Hitman's more sandbox driven. But regardless, Sonic Mania is fun. I highly recommend it. Go pick it up. It's like $20 on Steam. It's probably really cheap on consoles, $30 or $20. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. So thank y'all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos upcoming and prior to. Stay tuned. More Thoughts On are coming. Fall is here. Winter is coming. Nah, there's not gonna be a whole lot of games coming out in the winter. It's more about the fall that we're really irking for. A game you might see coming up on Thoughts On is Shadow of War, Middle-earth Shadow of War, because I really want to pick that up. You might see some Assassin's Creed Origins or Far Cry 5. A game you'll definitely see in Thoughts On in the future, though, I promise you this, is Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'm definitely picking that up, just out of the sake that it's Star Wars, and EA seems to have done a really much better job on it. So that's something you can expect come the future of the Thoughts On. Stay tuned, folks. Lots more content coming on my channel in the future. Always appreciate what you guys do for me. Thank y'all for watching one last time, and I'll be seeing you all later. Peace.